5 in a row. A 6-point margin in the end, right from the start. They were at it yesterday. Ross Munnelly is here in studio, and Kieran Donaghy, you can hear us there, Kieran?
Yeah, no problem, Joe.
Good man. So right from the start, Dublin looked focused, they looked sharp. 17 seconds in, Con kicks a point. Within 5 minutes, they'd had 5 shots and they were 5-1 up. In many ways, at a few different points, not least in that first half, 10 points apiece at half-time, and even after the Merchant goal, where they got to within a point of Dublin again. Kerry did very well at certain points to come back and claw away back into the game, but Peter Keane maybe summed it up best afterwards. He said, we were always stretching in that game. We were always stretching.
I would say at half-time Peter Keane would have been very happy because, you know, we gave him a huge platform with how we approached the game in the first 5 or 6 minutes when we were going long. And I don't know necessarily if it was a tactic by Peter Keane, to be honest. I think fellas just got their heads up and saw, you know, people inside and went for it like they did with the Clifford penalty incident in game 1 in the first final. I don't think it was I don't feel like it was something where the first 4 balls we get, we're going to lamp them in high from 50 or 60 yards in top of the full forward line. Just the fellas got space, got their heads up and saw what they thought was one-on-one inside and let it fly. But it was from so deep, the ball was travelling from it allowed Dublin to scramble back and allowed Cluxton and the defenders just to get a fist in it and knock it out. But that platform gave Dublin a real platform to go ahead, as you said, Joe. They look very comfortable. They kicked the first few points very easy, and Kerry has to be given massive credit about, you know, how they defended from there on in and how they played the game and how they manufactured their way back into the game. And to be honest, at 10-all.
You know, your line is just going a touch, Kieran. We'll get back to you in 2 seconds. We'll get that sorted out as soon as possible. Ross, you can pick up the mantle.
Yeah, I think what struck me early on in the game yesterday was that Dublin were dictating things, and whereas I felt in the drawn game Kerry had an ability to slow it down and move the ball around. They were a little bit trigger happy early on in terms of forcing the ball inside, and Dublin certainly grew in confidence and momentum, and Johnny Cooper started sweeping around in front of that full back line, and he started I suppose leading the line from the Dublin half back line and driving forward, and it really put Dublin on the front foot, whereas I felt in the drawn game Kerry were really good at slowing down the momentum. But yesterday Dublin were 100 miles an hour out of the block from the off, and it was very obvious that when Con and Kilkenny and these guys got on the ball, they were really driving at Kerry. And I suppose for me yesterday, one of the big things was that the Dublin full back line from the first minute to the end of the game, they drove forward at every single opportunity. And I think it was a conscious tactic to try and wear out the Gainies and the Cliffords and these guys and to put them on the back foot throughout. And I think if we look at the way the game manifested, and particularly in the last 20 minutes and so on, they looked a bit fatigued and they made kind of errors that you wouldn't associate with top forwards like that. And I think that was, for me, it was a conscious decision by Dublin that they were going to try and run this Kerry team off the field.
You mentioned the patience Kerry had on the ball in the first game, and Mayo to an extent showed that in the first half of the semi-final, and it seemed to frustrate Dublin and take the sting out of games. I wonder why they wouldn't have brought that to last night's game.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Every game is different. Every replayed game is different than the first one, and I'm not sure. There was a moment in the first half. I was behind the goals and Clifford was in front of me. It was a tangle between himself and Fitzsimons, and the ball had gone in high. And after the ball got swept away, he was really annoyed with whoever had played the pass in. It almost felt like, we're not playing to the game plan here. This is not what I want, because as we know, Clifford is so deadly with that 15-20 yards dart out in front almost to the D and collect the ball from there. So maybe it was occasion, or maybe the pressure on out in the field. Remember, Dublin had greater legs out around the middle of the field with James McCarthy. Everyone thought that Dublin would go with him in midfield, and he certainly made a big difference yesterday, because his mobility and his ability to carry the ball, but even to get close from a defensive mindset to Kerry out around the middle, I thought was valuable for Dublin to have on their side yesterday, and the fact that they were able to bring Merchant into the team gave them more legs.
Yeah. Kieran Donaghy back with us. We lost you in the midst of your summary of the game, Kieran. You can pick up where you were.
Yeah, just kind of, I suppose, the fact that Kerry were, in my eyes, would have been very happy at half time, Joe, because as you rightly say, it was helter-skelter in the first 10 minutes. We found ourselves 5 or 6 1 points down, not much going for us, and just managed a way to manufacture our way back into the game, defended well, didn't give away scoreable frees, which didn't allow Dublin to get their press on. My biggest disappointment, and I don't want to be harsh on this Kerry team or the management, because it's a kind of new journey for them, but what worked so well for them in the first game was how they set the tone early and how they pushed up on the kickouts, and how they kind of, I think it even spurred on the Kerry fans to believe that bit more. And just to take a backward step off of that, I felt I could almost feel a bit of gas going out of the Kerry fans in the stadium. Why aren't we putting this press on again? It worked for us the last day. I know we conceded the goal, but it's risk-reward, that tactic. And if you don't risk, you don't get reward. And I felt Kerry, in that early part of the game, and we always look back at the end of games, but you have to look at the game for the full 78 minutes. And, if we'd have started a bit more calmly on the ball, like we did maybe after the first 10 minutes, worked a few scores, got the press on, tried to pin them in a bit, set that tone and set that example that we were going for it. It could have fared a bit better for Kerry, but to their credit, they kept fighting, they kept dogging, and at half time, I think Peter Keane would have been relatively happy. Obviously, look, the goal is a sucker punch, and Dublin are not the team to be chasing, because they're so tactically aware, and they're so smart on the ball and their decision making. You could see there was a vital stage around 46, 47 minutes. It felt like Dublin had the ball for 15 minutes solid, but it was about 3, I think. I haven't watched the game back now, Joe, so I have to be careful with my analysis on it. I'd like to watch it 2 or 3 times before I talk to you on it, but just back from Dublin this morning. So, but there was a stage where we just couldn't get our hands on Dublin. We kind of did the extra man. We'd Paul Murphy back. They were using Johnny Cooper. They were kind of taking the sting out of it. They had the 3 or 4 point lead, and I think they were up 2 or 3 at the time. And Fenton came through in a massive run, and Stephen O'Brien chased them down and got a fantastic hand in and knocked the ball free. And it was like, if Kerry could have got that turnover, gone up and scored, it would have been a huge momentum lift. And instead, when Stephen O'Brien knocked the ball away, it hit Fenton's leg. He was able to pick it up. He popped it out to Mannion, who was outside, and Mannion popped it over the bar. I don't know whether to put him 3 or 4 up, but it just felt like a huge sucker blow for Kerry. They'd been patient. They'd been disciplined in their tackling. They thought they got that turnover and then lost it. So, those little vital stages of a game are huge, but, it's not to take away from what this Dublin team are, which is incredibly hard to beat. As we know, the last 5 years, they haven't been beaten.
3 minutes exactly was that spell of possession. And 35 passes.
It felt like 25 minutes.
I'm sure it did. Did Kerry put the press on at any stage? Like, did something happen in the first few minutes where they got spooked?
No, we didn't put it on early, but we did put it on. I think I had it in my notes. I think we put it on 4 times, but we were never aggressive enough with it, Joe. We put it on, but we still let them go short to 4 times. So it was like a waste. It was like a waste of the effort of going to put it on. You get up into the position to put on the press. You have to err on the side of, they're definitely not going to get it short. We'll err on them getting it long, but at least when it's long, it's going to float through the air. We've got time to scramble. You've got time to get a hand in it. You've got time to compete. It makes it slightly more 50-50. But we got it up in the press, I think, 4 times, and they got it short to 4 times. So it was almost, as I said, it's risk and reward, and I just felt we didn't risk enough on it. And I think when they look back on it, they look at them the few times they did press, but it was the intent on game 1. It was the Kerry crowd after 3 or 4 minutes kind of going, okay, Kerry are really going for this. This is good now. This is 12 guys up inside our own half. This is rattling Dublin's cage a bit. And we had opportunities in that game 1 from the press that we could have even capitalised more on. And maybe had that game, had been in a very strong position in the first final from the press. It just gave us a huge platform. It was just surprising for me to, psychologically wise, for the fans and the players. I wonder what was the call there on not to go on it. I know they got burnt by the goal, but the goal was a perfect storm of what has to happen for the press to be dismantled. A fantastic catch by Brian Howard where he's his knee up on Gavin White's shoulder. He's soaring through the air. He lands kind of half-turned. You've got Jack McCaffrey with the fastest wheels in the country, sprinting the length of the pitch. It was the perfect storm, and that's exactly what has to happen to dismantle. And there still could have been learnings from that off Kerry. Okay, you don't get in the wrong side of Brian Howard, you stay behind him. Worst case scenario, you try and fist it away. Don't let him catch it. If he does catch it, foul him. If you can, foul him. Get back to the D where you're not giving up a goal and you're just giving up the point and it's okay. But that would have been the learning I would have taken from the press and said, okay, we're going to go with this again all day, guys. Every chance we get on a free, we're going to go with this. Saying that, both teams are much more disciplined and it's harder to get the press on from normal play. It's much easier to do it from set pieces, which is why Dublin we didn't see too much of it from Dublin, because Kerry only gave away one scoreable free, and I think Kerry might have only had the 3 or 4 where Sean O'Shea kind of where we got to put it on, but we never were aggressive enough on it.
Yeah, the psychology is a very interesting point, Ross. Maybe in that first game there was an element of nobody expects us to do much here. This is a shot to nothing. We have to go for broke. And then suddenly you realise, God, we're in this. We can compete with these guys. Maybe an element of let's try and mind our house a little bit creeps into the decision making. We'll never quite know until Peter Keane decides to tell us the thinking.
Yeah, and still you look at the point that Kieran made there about that Mannion point. I think it was actually the 51st minute that Mannion had got that score, but just before, and that made it a 3-point game, and just before it, David Moran had shot wide, and just after it, Kieran Kilkenny made that unbelievable block on Jack Sherwood. So Kerry were right in the game all the way through, and so admirable the way, even though Dublin used to stretch the legs and go ahead, they'd pull them back. But for me, there was 2 brilliant pieces of tactical play by Dublin that really got them out in front. And the first one was the goal just after half time. If you look at when Merchant gets the ball and starts moving forward, Fenton just turns his back across. I think it was Adrian Spillane was about to start following Merchant. He gets in his way, and all of a sudden Merchant has gone 15 yards, and then Dave Moran is trying to track him. Ball ends up in the back of the net. And then later on in that half, Mannion gets a brilliant point from play. It's where actually Con has the ball in the 15 corner. It's one of these really long spells that Dublin have possession. They bring it back to midfield. It goes into the 13 corner with Mannion. Sean O'Shea is actually marking him, trying to keep him outside. And just as Mannion cuts back inside, James McCarthy walks across Sean O'Shea, stops him. Mannion gets 3 or 4 yards of space and ball over the bar. Just that smartness that when the time is right, you can get away. It's not a big obvious jump in front of someone. You just step across and you give someone a yard of pace. And there were 2 key scores for Dublin yesterday, and just that really smart play by Dublin.
We'll come on to Jim Gavin in a second, but he was far more open in his press conference than he has been in previous years, which has heightened the sense of wondering, is this the end? Maybe that he can loosen the reins a bit. But he revealed that the own Merchant goal, even though David Moran fisted it towards him, that once he got the ball in that position, this was a set-piece move that they had worked on. So everybody knew what was going to happen, which again, is just the brilliance of their preparation. Now, Merchant, when he was asked about it on TV afterwards, said, I can't really remember much about the goal, and, he wasn't letting it slip that it was a set-piece move, but Gavin said it was.
And you probably look, if you're David Moran, he did everything right. He got his hand on Merchant. As quick as Merchant is, Dave Moran got back, he got his hands on him. The unfortunate thing for Kerry was he just couldn't hold on to him and give away the free, or maybe, if he went in around the neck to stop him, it would have been a yellow card.
As a player there, you're trying to foul Merchant but not drag him to the ground.
Yeah, well,
that's the weirdness of the black card rule.
You're safe. Well, to me, I don't see it like that. Black card is a deliberate pull down. If you go around the neck of anyone, it's straight yellow card. So for me, reach in around the neck, slow him. But I'm not criticising David Moran.
Deliberate foul as well, though, no?
Yeah, but it's more so if you go around the neck, referee will always give you a yellow card.
That's what I mean. That's why the black card is so crazy. Like, both of them are deliberate foul, but if Merchant goes to the ground, you get your black card. If you foul him around the neck deliberately, you get your yellow and bobs your uncle.
I think you can make a foul around the neck look like you're trying to tackle, especially if you're Dave Moran on a smaller player. But listen, I'm not criticising Dave Moran. He made over a 60-yard run with Merchant. He was there at the end of it to get his hand on him. And David Moran is a brilliant player. Another day, maybe Merchant goes down, it's a free and there's no goal, and small things.
What were you screaming at Moran to do in that instance, Kieran?
Yeah, I thought he couldn't do anything more than he did, to be quite honest. I agree with Ross. You probably have to look at maybe Morley and Tom Sullivan when they were dragged wide to maybe spot it a bit earlier that there could be danger here. But it happened so quick, and it's look, Cork did it to Dublin or Tyrone at the start of a game this year. Very similar. It's the most open teams are in a game, Joe, and it's something that you'll see a lot more of over the coming years. It's a chance to get at the opposition straight away, and I don't think Dave could have done any more because we couldn't lose him to a black card. I disagree with Ross slightly. If Dave puts any hand in him there, Murchan's going to go to ground. Conor Lane's going to see it as a deliberate stop of a goal chance. He's going to give a black card, even though the technicality is probably right by what Ross is saying. But in the heat of the moment, it would look like a deliberate pull down. So I thought Dave did extremely well. You just got to give Owen Murchan huge credit to run that far and to place it where he did on the outside of the right boot. I thought Dave couldn't have done any more. And I think Kerry did that a few times yesterday where, Dublin were really running at them and Kerry didn't panic down the middle. They stayed niggling away. I think it was Con and Scully put two of them over the bar. A lot of teams would have tackled and black carded there and lose two or three players. Whereas I think Kerry did as much right as they could on the instances. You got to trust your goalkeeper in that instance. And, it's a centre-back at the end of the day that hasn't scored in the championship before, bearing down on goals. So you're hoping he's a lash at it or he kicks it wide. But look, you got to give the Nafina man huge credit. He was massive yesterday. A big call from Jim Gavin, and he got it right because McCarthy was very solid in the middle of the field as well. So I think that access worked very well for them.
It's kind of remiss of us, Ross, not to talk about just how good a game it was. It was a brilliant game for huge periods of time. That first half whizzed by. See, all the Dublin's points, all 10 points are from play, not a single wide. Kerry, 7 of their 10 are from play, and some of their shots were brilliant as well. Like, the quality of forward play here was absolutely outstanding. It's like a glimpse into 20 years in the future where, Gaelic games could be. Like, some of the quality we saw was incredible. Yeah,
and we spoke about it here yesterday afternoon before the game, just talking about how, I suppose, the top players, maybe that Gainey and Clifford the first day might have been a little bit disappointed, and then you had Con, Mannion and Kilkenny that we knew would be disappointed on the Dublin side. And I thought yesterday going into the game someone was going to do wreck from play, because with 5 big personalities like that and top forwards feeling that, okay, I did okay the first day but I could have done a lot better, and we were treated to some superb scores yesterday. And I think probably what swung the man of the match for Kilkenny was that block after whatever 50 odd minutes. It was an unbelievable block on I think it was Jack Sherwood at the time. So it was they gave us everything. Gainey gave us high fielding, he gave us ball winning. Tommy Walsh, when he came in, the ball was like glue to his hands. I remember somebody fizzed in a ball maybe from 40 yards at Con in the first half down towards the hill into the 13 corner, stuck to his hands like glue. You had some brilliant battles all over the field, and it was a real spectacle. And you have to credit it. I suppose Kieran will probably agree with me here. You have to credit when forwards come out and explode like that and kick brilliant points, and it was a real treat for us.
Kieran, do you come away a little bit downhearted after? Like, does yesterday for you copper fasten the sense that actually Dublin are a fair bit clear of Kerry?
That's a tough one, really, Joe, because they're at very different stages. A lot of these young guys on the Dublin team have come into winning ethos. They're following on from they're falling into a setup that knows what it's about, knows what its what its path trajectory has been. Kerry, they're coming in having not been in the final in 4 years. A lot of young fellas coming out of nowhere. 17 guys involved in the first final the first day. Maybe everybody's still a bit unsure of what we're about. Maybe you could look at the first 10 minutes and that could sum it up, really. That it'd be hard to see Dublin do something like that, where they all of a sudden hit 5 balls in and don't win any of them. You wouldn't see them doing that. If they did do that, they'd have a plan that they'd have 3 maybe in around the house, and they'd go 3 on 3 and they'd plant it in. So I wouldn't say, Dublin are ahead of the pack, because you got to look at it, the forwards that you've mentioned, Kilkenny's, Con Callaghan, Paul Mannion, Niall Scully, Brian Howard, Connolly, these fellas aren't going anywhere, Joe. So they're going to be right in the mix again. Fenton and McCarthy in the midfield won't be going anywhere next year. Murchan, Johnny Cooper, Mick Fitzsimons, John Small, Paddy Small. They're I think we're in for a great 10 years of Kerry Dublin games. To be quite honest, if I would consider myself lucky to be from Kerry, because if I was from a county that has been struggling, I'd be fairly pessimistic of my chances of trying to win in All Ireland, and I'd be hoping for Tier 2 championships and possibly even Tier 3 championships, that we could go win something, because these two teams are going to be around for quite a bit. But what this Dublin team have done, when we got beaten for the 3 in a row in 08 by Tyrone, I remember kind of thinking, Jesus, there's no team going to get 3 or 4 or 5 in a row. And it's too competitive. There's too many games. You can get caught at too many levels. You can get caught in quarterfinals. I think the Super 8s, will help great teams, continue on if they stay. No, they'll probably go, but because you could lose a quarterfinal before and be caught, whereas I think the Super 8s could allow you to lose one game in the quarterfinals, but your other 2 games can get you back on track. So I think what this team have done is quite remarkable, and they've been tested by a very good Kerry team this week, over the last 2 games. And I think, Joe, where they won this All Ireland, in the last 7 minutes when they were down a point in the first game. Yeah. And how they manufactured, how they thought, the plan, the structure. Cluxton coming out on Tommy Walsh. We went through it on Sky Sports before the game yesterday. Tommy coming out on Cluxton coming out and Tommy Walsh, James McCarthy picking up Paul Ganey, Dean Rock jumping onto Shane Ryan, that we couldn't reverse the ball back around, pushing them up the sideline. When you're a point down and your 5 in a row dreams are could go up in smoke, to have the wherewithal and the composure with 3 or 4 minutes to go. It was the 73rd minute when they were at this. It's quite remarkable how they have the mental fortitude, the coolness upstairs, the smarts. They are the most intelligent team we've ever had, and they're probably the best team we've ever had now that they've done this 5 in a row. So but Kerry are coming, and Kerry have loads of learning to do. The players will learn a huge amount from this year in general, because look, let's face it, Kerry came from a place where we weren't in the semi-finals last year. So to be that close to this Dublin team now, it will give them huge focus. And I always say you learn more from defeat. So Kerry will be back hungry next year, and they'll be knocking on the door, no doubt.
There's no doubt they're coming, Ross, and maybe after the drawn game people might have been more tempted to say, geez, next year, imagine how much the margin isn't as big as we thought, and next year that could be Kerry's year already. I think everybody knows this Kerry team will win in All-Irelands eventually, but does yesterday now give, if you're a Dublin fan, or you as an analyst, would it give you the sense that actually Dublin are still 2-3 years away from this Kerry team being able to catch them?
No, I'm not so sure. If I was a Kerry player, I'd be more enthused yesterday than the drawn game, because the drawn game they were up against 14. When you went away and you dust yourself down and you think, okay, we gave away a point lead to a 14-man team, and they probably could have caught us coming up the straight, especially in injury time. Yesterday, from a Kerry perspective, I think those 2 blocks, those 2 little body checks that ended up in Merchant getting away with in a foot race with Dave, and then just James McCarthy stepping across Sean O'Shea and Mannion kicking a point. I think because of the resilience that Kerry showed, that they came back 5-1 down and stages in the first half where, it was a 3-point game when O'Brien had the goal chance.
It was, yeah.
Kerry were there all of the way, but just a little bit.
6 points in the end, though.
Yeah, 6 points in the end, but I have it from the 43rd minute to 73, 4 or 5, whatever it was, that Kerry had 9 missed opportunities. And on another day, some of those goals go over. You have the one, especially the big one with O'Brien, but you have the one where Ganey burrows in and you think, take a point and you'll bring it back within 3 points again, and he ends up having to fling it back out because they're chasing a goal. And I just think 1 or 2 little things like that, and all of a sudden Kerry are there going down the stretch. So if I was Kerry, I'd be thinking, let's break and come back, and let's see if we can get 1 or 2 inches, and 1 or 2 just moments of where we learn from our experience, and we go at this next year rather than this year maybe thinking where are we, but going back with a very clear goal in sight.
And certainly if Jim Gavin goes and if Cluxton goes, they're more than a few inches. So that's another aspect here, and we'll talk about that over the coming weeks, I'm sure. So just to follow on and round this up, Kieran talked about what they've achieved. You sum up what we've seen here in this Dublin team.
In over the last couple of games or years, yeah, we've just seen. I think I like to judge people by consistency and operating at that highest level for that length of time, and to be almost blemish free. Okay, a couple of little blots on the copybook where they had drawn games and so on, but I think to be able to, and if you look at that little bit of a malfunction against Donegal, which Dublin learned hugely from with deploying Cian O'Sullivan as a sweeper from there on out, I think to be as consistent as that over a prolonged period of time just shows how really, really professional this squad are, and how committed they are to doing everything right all of the time. And I think that for all of us in any aspect of life, you look at it and you think, there's something that I can learn from and that I can always achieve, that no matter how good you're performing, that there's always somebody out there setting the mark. And I think Dublin have done that, and they've changed the game away from the really defensive stuff back to the teams going at it, and my God, you look at the 2 All-Ireland finals and you think, wow, you'd look forward to that every year. Absolutely. The game's in a good place if that's where it's going. Ross, thanks for coming in. Kieran, I suspect we'll hear from you across the week, either in the evening or OTBAM. You have to go and watch this game back about 4 times now. I'll have to watch it. Just to see it, like, you see you're watching it live, but like I was emotionally wrapped up in it, as I'm a Kerry fan, Joe. Like, let's not call a spade a spade. So I got to go back and look at it with the forensic glasses on and see where, but Ross is right. Like, there's so many tiny little fractions that decide these big games, but there's a reason Dublin come out on top in all of them over the last 5 years, and I think it's their game intelligence and it's their decision making down the stretch, and how they work for each other, and look, they're worthy champions, and I hope they go and enjoy this 5 in a row and celebrate it, because when I look back, we enjoyed our All-Irelands, and they're there to be enjoyed, because there'll be tough days. There'll be tough days ahead. These players will lose a final coming up in the next few years, or you lose games, and you look back in them. But enjoy the ones you win, and I think they will. And looking from afar last night, they certainly enjoyed their lap of honour last night, and well deserved. Absolutely. Ross Munnelly, Kieran Donaghy, thanks so much. Short break. We've got the paper review next.
Join the conversation on Facebook and Twitter.
You're a business owner, a decision maker, and a big thinker. You're the brains behind the business, but you're getting tied down by red tape, regulation, and legal jargon. It's time to find a CPA. A certified public accountant will give you direction on your road to success, so you can spend less time ticking boxes and more time thinking outside them. 100,000 businesses across Ireland trust a CPA with their finances. Visit cpaireland.ie and find a CPA to take your business anywhere.
Listen up, class. Aldi's Play Rugby sticker promotion is back. Collect official Irish rugby stickers every time you spend €30 in Aldi. Fill your primary school's poster for a chance to win one of 2 €50,000 prizes, or one of 10 €10,000 prizes for your school's playing facilities. Tomorrow, Japanese verb